First Contact Protocol. The Hegemony Council chambers echoed with panicked voices as holographic displays showed another world falling to the Scaraban Dominion. Ambassador Nylira Tevar stood before the assembly, her violet skin pale with exhaustion, four-fingered hands trembling as she gestured toward the devastation. "The Kalani colony has fallen," she announced, her melodic voice strained. "That makes 11 worlds in 3 cycles. Our defensive formations cannot withstand their dishonorable tactics." Elder Brontes, the ancient Luminite representative, floated forward, his energy form pulsing with concern. "We must not abandon our principles, Ambassador. War has rules that have maintained balance for millennia." Nylira suppressed her frustration. "With respect, Elder, our principles won't matter if our species is extinct." The chamber fell silent as the gravity of her words sank in. The hegemony had fought wars according to strict protocols for thousands of years' formal engagements, daytime battles, symmetrical formations. The Scaraban forces ignored these traditions, attacking civilian centers, striking at night, and using overwhelming force against strategic targets rather than engaging in ceremonial combat. "What do you propose?" asked Councillor Devros, his crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. Nylira took a deep breath. "There is a species on the galactic fringe. They call themselves humans. They're new to interstellar travel, but—" She hesitated. "They think differently about warfare." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Most council members had dismissed humans as primitive, barely beyond their home system. "You can't be serious," Commander Exara chittered, antennae twitching with agitation. "I've reviewed their history. They've spent millennia fighting among themselves. Their tactics are disturbing. Precisely why we need them," Nylira countered. "The Scaraban aren't following hegemony combat doctrine. Perhaps we need advisors who understand warfare without rules." The debate raged for hours. Eventually, the council voted by the narrowest margin in its history to request human assistance. General Darius Reeves was reviewing training simulations when the communication came through, the holographic interface of his office aboard. The United Earth Defense Station Artemis flickered, displaying an alien face he didn't recognize. "General Reeves? I am Ambassador Nylira Tevar of the Galactic Hegemony. We require your expertise." Reeves studied the alien humanoid butt. Clearly not human, with violet skin and elegantly tapered features. "What kind of expertise, Ambassador?" "The martial kind. My people face extinction from an enemy who refuses to follow traditional combat protocols." Reeves smiled slightly. "Traditional protocols? In war?" The ambassador's expression showed confusion. "Yes. Wars in civilized space follow established doctrines dating back thousands of years." "I see." Reeves pulled up data on the hegemony, a confederation of species that had maintained peace through rigid diplomatic and military structures. And your enemy doesn't play by the rules. The Scaraban Dominion attacks without warning. They target civilian centers. They use deception and overwhelming force. Nylira's voice carried desperation. "We need someone who understands such methods." Reeves leaned back, contemplating. Humanity had only recently joined the galactic community, their faster-than-light technology barely a decade old. Most advanced species viewed humans as curiosities technologically impressive, but culturally primitive. "Ambassador, if you're asking humans for military advice, you must be truly desperate." "We are," she admitted. "The hegemony faces extinction." Within hours, Reeves had authorization from Earth Command to assemble a small advisory team. His first call was to Commander Jade Winters, whose unconventional tactics during the Mars insurrection had earned her both commendations and controversy. "They want our help with a war?" Winters asked incredulously. "The same aliens who've been lecturing us about our barbaric history since first contact? Apparently, barbarians are exactly what they need right now, Reeves replied. Pack for extended deployment. We leave tomorrow. As Reeves assembled his team, he couldn't help but wonder what the hegemony truly expected from humans. They were asking for warriors, but they were about to get something they couldn't possibly understand. Extinction-level humans with 5,000 years of perfecting the art of war without rules. The art of disorder. The UE's Intrepid dropped out of FTL on the edges of hegemony space, a sleek vessel designed for speed rather than ceremonial impressiveness. Commander Jade Winters stood on the bridge, watching as the massive hegemony flagship Eternal Vigilance came into view, a beautiful, gleaming behemoth that looked more like a floating palace than a warship. They build their ships to be seen, Captain Finn Blackwood remarked, standing beside her. The stealth operations specialist's dark eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. No attempt at minimizing profiles or sensor signatures. General Reeves nodded. Because their wars are performances as much as conflicts. The human delegation, just 12 specialists in total, transferred to the hegemony vessel. They were greeted by Ambassador Nylira Tevar and Fleet Commander Talon, a tall, broad-shouldered alien with coppery skin and striking amber eyes. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Vigilance," Talon said formally. "We are honored by your presence, though some of my officers remain skeptical of your involvement." "Understandable," Reeves replied. "We'll try not to disappoint them." The humans were shown to a conference room where holographic displays showed recent battles. Commander Winters winced at what she saw hegemony. Ships arranged in perfect symmetrical formations, engaging Skaraban forces at predetermined ranges during standardized daylight cycles. "You announce your attacks?" Blackwood asked incredulously, as one recording showed formal communications preceding an engagement. "Of course." Talon looked confused. "How else would both sides prepare proper formations?" Reeves exchanged glances. "With his team." "Commander Talon, we need to observe an actual engagement. When is your next scheduled battle?" 2 planetary rotations from now," Talon replied. "The Skaraban have agreed to meet our forces in the Caledon system." "They still agree to battle locations?" Winters couldn't hide her disbelief. Nylira stepped forward. "Not always. Increasingly, they attack without proper notification. That's why we're losing." The humans spent the next day reviewing hegemony military doctrine and Skaraban tactics. What they found left them astounded. Millennia of warfare conducted like elaborate chess matches, with strict rules that both sides had followed until the Skaraban began breaking tradition. In private, the human team gathered to discuss their observations. "They're fighting wars like Renaissance-era Europeans," Winters said. "Standing in lines, taking turns firing, retreating in good order." Blackwood shook his head. "And they've never developed night operations, electronic warfare, or irregular tactics. It's like they skipped the last 4,000 years of human military evolution." "The Skaraban are still following some conventions," Reeves noted. "But they're pushing boundaries, attacking supply lines, using superior numbers, targeting key infrastructure. Basically, they've discovered basic strategy," Winters said. "And the hegemony has no idea how to respond." The observation mission came 2 days later. From the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, the humans watched as the hegemony fleet arranged, itself in a perfect crescent formation. Across the void, Skaraban vessels formed a wedge-shaped counter-formation. "They're telegraphing every move," Blackwood muttered. As the battle progressed, Winters noticed Nylira, watching her reactions closely. The ambassador approached, her graceful movements betraying tension. "You find our methods primitive," Nylira observed. "Different," Winters corrected diplomatically. "But I understand now why you sought human assistance." The hegemony forces suffered another defeat withdrawing in perfect order after losing several ships. Back in the strategy room, General Reeves addressed the hegemony commanders directly. "Gentlemen, ladies, and others," he began, "if you want our help, you need to understand something fundamental. What you call war, we would call a ceremony. What we call war, you would call an atrocity." Commander Tylan's amber eyes locked with, "Winters, show us." Winters stepped forward, bringing up a tactical display of the Scarabin supply network. "We start by hitting them where and when they least expect it. No announcements, no formations, no rules." For the first time, Nylira saw something that looked like genuine hope among her military leaders. What they didn't yet understand was that they hadn't just invited warriors, they had invited chaos itself into their orderly universe. Midnight Operations Captain Finn Blackwood checked his tactical gear one final time as the stealth shuttle descended toward the Scarabin supply depot on Euraxis IV. Beside him, 6 human operators prepared their equipment while a small contingent of hegemony soldiers watched with obvious discomfort. "This is highly irregular," Lieutenant Viridian whispered, his scaled skin flushing a deeper green with anxiety. "Combat operations during sleep cycles violate Section 7 of the Galactic Combat Protocols." Blackwood suppressed a smile. "That's rather the point, Lieutenant." The humans had spent a week designing their first demonstration of alternative tactics. General Reeves remained aboard the Eternal Vigilance with Commander Winters, monitoring the operation while Blackwood led the ground team. "Approaching drop point," the pilot announced. No detection signatures. The shuttle, modified with human stealth technology, touched down 3 kilometers from the depot. Under the cover of darkness, the team moved out back on the flagship. Ambassador Nylira watched the operation feed with a mixture of fascination and horror. "Your people move like predators," she observed. "We evolved from them," Winters replied. She noticed how Nylira's violet eyes reflected the tactical displays, how her slender fingers nervously traced patterns on the console edge. Despite their physiological differences, Winters recognized the universal signs of someone pushed beyond their comfort zone. Commander Talan stood rigidly nearby. "This approach dishonors generations of military tradition." "With respect, Commander," Reeves said, "tradition is getting your people killed." On the ground, Blackwood's team reached the perimeter of the depot. The Scarabin security was substantial, but focused outward. They expected attacks from space or formal ground assaults, not small infiltration teams. "Proceeding to Phase 2, Blackwood whispered into his com. He nodded to Specialist Rodriguez, who deployed tiny drone swarms, programmed to create diversionary signals across the compound dot. As alarms blared on the opposite side, Blackwood led his team through the gap in security. The operation was precise, methodical, and utterly foreign to hegemony doctrine. Within 20 minutes, they had planted explosive charges throughout the facility, focusing on fuel reserves and munitions. "Withdrawing now," Blackwood reported. "Detonation in 10 minutes. From orbit, the explosion appeared as a small flare on the planet's surface. To the hegemony observers, the implications were seismic. You destroyed their entire supply depot without engaging in combat?" Talan asked, disbelief evident in his voice. "The best fight is the one you never have to fight," Winters replied. Later that night, Blackwood found Nylira alone in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "Your methods are effective," she admitted, not turning to face him. "But they feel ... wrong." Blackwood moved beside her. "War isn't supposed to feel right, Ambassador. Call me Nylira, please." She finally looked at him. "My people have maintained peace for millennia through rigid structures. I fear what happens when those structures crumble. Sometimes systems need to evolve to survive," he said quietly. Their conversation continued late into the night. Human soldier and an alien diplomat finding unexpected common ground amid the stars. When their hands accidentally touched, neither pulled away immediately, both curious about the foreign sensation. The next morning, General Reeves presented a comprehensive strategy to the Hegemony Command. Over the next 2 weeks, human-led teams conducted 7 more operations night raids, electronic warfare attacks, and targeted strikes against Scaraban leadership. The results were undeniable. For the first time since the conflict began, the Scaraban were on the defensive. "They're adapting," Winters warned during a strategy session. "We need to escalate our approach." Commander Talon, who had initially resisted human methods, now leaned forward with interest. "What do you propose, Commander?" Winters' eyes met his. "Something the Scaraban won't expect. Psychological warfare." "Psychological warfare, Commander." Jade Winters stood before the assembled Hegemony officers, her presentation displaying concepts entirely foreign to their military doctrine. "Warfare isn't just about destroying assets," she explained. "It's about breaking will, making your enemy believe they cannot win." The conference room hummed with uneasy murmurs. Commander Talon, who had gradually warmed to human tactics, raised his hand. "You propose we target their thoughts?" he asked, amber eyes fixed on Winters. "Their morale, their confidence, their sense of security," she clarified. "The Scaraban believe they understand the new rules of this conflict. We need to show them they don't." Over the past 3 weeks, the human advisory team had transformed Hegemony operations. Gone were the formal battle arrangements and daylight engagements. Instead, strike teams hit Scaraban forces at their weakest points, using stealth, deception, and surprise. The Scaraban High Command had responded by doubling planetary defenses and adopting some irregular tactics of their own. Intelligence reports indicated they were preparing a massive counteroffensive. "Phase 1 of psychological operations begins with uncertainty," Winters continued. "We'll use electronic warfare to disrupt their communications, plant contradictory intelligence, and make them question their own information." After the briefing, Talon requested a private word with Winters. They walked through the luminescent gardens that occupied the center of the eternal vigilance, a place of beauty incongruous with its military purpose. "Your species confuses me, Commander," Talon admitted. "You create such beauty," he gestured to holographic images of Earth landscapes Winters had shared, "yet design warfare methods of such darkness." "Perhaps because we understand darkness better," she replied. "We've lived with it longer." There, conversation drifted from tactics to philosophy, from duty to personal history. Winters found herself drawn to Talon's intellectual curiosity and evolving perspective. When their hands brushed while examining tactical displays, neither pulled away. Meanwhile, aboard the human vessel Intrepid, Captain Blackwood and Ambassador Nylera worked on diplomatic approaches to complement military operations. Their professional relationship had developed into something neither had anticipated, connection that transcended their biological differences. "Your people are changing us," Nylera said one evening as they reviewed intelligence reports. "Not just our military doctrine, but our understanding of conflict itself," Blackwood smiled. "And your people are changing us too, reminding us why. We fight not just to win, but to protect." Their eyes met, and despite the biological impossibility of truly understanding each other's expressions, both recognized the mutual attraction that had developed. The psychological warfare campaign began with spectacular results. Human-designed electronic countermeasures confused Scaraban fleet movements. False intelligence led them to fortify systems that were never targeted, while leaving critical locations vulnerable. The most effective tactic came from General Reeves himself using captured Scaraban communication protocols to broadcast footage of successful raids directly to their military command, creating uncertainty and fear. "They're responding exactly as predicted," Winters reported during a strategy session. pulling back to defensive positions, becoming more cautious. Talon nodded, studying the tactical display. The Scarabin High Command has requested formal communication for the first time since they began breaking protocols. They want to negotiate? Reeves asked. No, Nylira entered with Blackwood. They've issued a challenge. Their Supreme Commander wishes to engage in traditional combat there. Main fleet against ours at the Vortex Nebula. Winters and Blackwood exchanged glances. It's a trap, they said simultaneously. Of course it is, Reeves agreed. Which is exactly why we're going to accept and spring our own. As preparations began for what would likely be the decisive engagement of the conflict, personal relationships deepened amid the pressure. Talon sought out Winters after hours, their professional admiration evolving into something neither had words to properly describe. Nylira and Blackwood found moments of connection between planning sessions. Her diplomatic insights complementing his tactical thinking in ways that extended beyond their professional roles. The eve before the fleet departed brought quiet moments of intimacy conversations that acknowledged the uncertain future and the unexpected bonds formed across species. As the hegemony prepared for its greatest military challenge, its people were already transformed by their human allies in ways no one had anticipated. A new doctrine in the combined fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Vortex Nebula, a swirling mass of gases and stellar matter that painted the viewport with brilliant purples and blues. General Reeves stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance, surrounded by both human and hegemony officers. Scarabin fleet detected, announced the sensor officer. 87 vessels in standard combat formation. They're following traditional doctrine, Commander Talon observed. As their challenge indicated, Winters smiled grimly. For now, the plan they had devised represented the culmination of everything the humans had taught their hegemony allies. Perfect synthesis of traditional strength and unconventional tactics. All vessels confirm ready status. Blackwood reported from the tactical station. Reeves nodded to Ambassador Nylira, who stood with quiet dignity beside him. Ambassador, would you do the honors? Nylira stepped forward. All ships execute operation. Paradigm shift. What followed stunned even the human advisors. The hegemony fleet, once bound by thousands of years of rigid doctrine, executed a battle plan that no conventional military would have conceived. 3/4 of the fleet arranged themselves in traditional formation, drawing the Scarabin into expected engagement patterns. Meanwhile, stealth vessels developed with human technology slipped behind enemy lines. When the Scarabin committed their forces to the frontal engagement, the trap was sprung. Electronic warfare systems disabled. Their communications. Precision strikes from cloaked positions targeted command vessels. Conventional forces pressed the advantage with coordinated attacks that broke all rules of traditional combat. On the bridge, Talon moved to stand beside Winters, their shoulders touching as they watched their plans unfold. It's working, he said quietly. The battle lasted just 4 hours, astonishingly brief by hegemony standards. When the Scarabin Supreme Commander's vessel transmitted surrender protocols, the bridge erupted in celebration. Amidst the jubilation, Nylira found Blackwood. Your people have changed the course of galactic history, she said, her violet eyes meeting his. For better or worse, he replied. Both, I suspect, she admitted, taking his hand in hers. The days that followed brought rapid changes throughout. Hegemony space. The Scarabin Dominion, its military leadership in disarray, agreed to peace terms more favorable than anyone had imagined possible. In the diplomatic chambers, where the peace accords were signed, General Reeves addressed the hegemony. Council, you asked for our help because we think differently about warfare, he said. But the victory wasn't won because humans are better warriors. It was won because we learned from each other. The truth of his words was evident in the changes already. taking place. The hegemony was establishing new military doctrines that balanced their traditions with practical effectiveness. Humans were learning about the value of ceremony and structure in maintaining long-term peace. As the human advisors prepared to return home, personal goodbyes proved more difficult than anyone had anticipated. Commander Winters and Talon spent a final evening discussing the future, both of galactic security and the unprecedented relationship they had formed. "There are diplomatic positions opening on Earth," Winters suggested. "The hegemony will need representatives." Talon's amber eyes brightened. "I believe I could serve my people well in such a capacity." Elsewhere on the ship, Nilira and Blackwood faced their own farewells. "I've been appointed to the hegemony's new Strategic Innovation Council," she told him. "We'll be examining how to integrate what we've learned from humans." "You might need a human advisor," Blackwood suggested, "for technical expertise." Their hands intertwined, differences in form and biology overshadowed by deeper connections. The formal farewell ceremony blended human and hegemony traditions, a symbolic representation of the new relationship between their cultures. As the UES Intrepid prepared for departure, General Reeves offered a final observation to Ambassador Nilira. "They wanted warriors," he said, "but what they needed was a new perspective." Nilira smiled, watching as Winters and Talon exchanged a formal, yet intimate goodbye, while Blackwood prepared to remain behind as Earth's new military liaison to the hegemony. "We asked for help winning a war," she replied. "Instead, you helped us build a future." As the human vessel disappeared into FTL, the stars continued their eternal dance around the hegemony worlds, unchanged in their cosmic patterns yet bearing witness to a galactic civilization forever transformed by its encounter with humanity.